And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Sergio. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me.
Thank you.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself before we get into it?
Yeah, like Brandon said, my name is Sergio. Currently living in Florida, but spent a lot of my life in Indianapolis. And I just kind of wanted to talk about an experience I had with a shadow being in Indianapolis. And that's really it. I'm an Army vet and love listening to the podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. And you're a fellow Hoosier. So
Yep.
Even though you might not be here now, you're still one originally. So I always appreciate when my fellow Indiana people reach out to me. But you said you had a encounter with this shadow type of a person. Do you want to get started with it? You can just kind of, when did it happen, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so this was back several years back. I think I was 19, 20 years old. I'm in my 30s now. This was in Indianapolis, in Lawrence Township, actually. Went to high school in Lawrence North High School. And I was just kind of hanging out with my friends during the summer, a summer or two after I had graduated high school, and just before I left for the Army. And we were just hanging out, late night, 10, 11 o'clock. We were hanging out in front of my friend's garage, sitting on his grandfather's the tailgate of his truck, and we were talking for a couple hours. Time was flying by. We're just having fun, talking guy stuff, and then it hits around like 3:30 a.m. Like I said, we were out there for a while, and then I hear this rustling in the bushes on the house across the street from us. And I'm sitting there on the tailgate with two of my friends. And for the sake of this interview, I'll just call them T and D, 'cause I haven't asked their permission. And T has sadly passed away in the interim. Um, like I said, I heard some rustling in the bushes, and I was like, what's that? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's pretty loud. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's a raccoon or something. And then we kind of continue talking, even though it rustled the whole bush, and it was like a sizable bush in front of the house. Talked for a couple more minutes, maybe 5, 10 more minutes pass, and then I hear the metal of the gutter on the house kind of go, "Er," and I'm like, oh, what's that? And we're looking over, and holding on to the gutter and kind of duck walking towards us is this shadow creature with its head still above the gutter, but just doing a duck walk, kind of inching closer and closer. And then I go to ask my buddy, "Hey, do you see that?" And to my left, that was T. T's gone. He's already ran off to his house. He's nowhere to be seen. And then I look to my right, and D's terrified. He's like, dude, I don't know what that is. I'm out of here. And he runs off. And then it's just me. And by the time I look straight forward, this thing's in the middle of the street, of the neighborhood street there. like from the house, maybe 50 feet away to the middle of the street. In the time it took me to look left and right to talk to my buddies. And to kind of describe what this thing looked like, it was like a solid person, a normal like proportion head, a longer neck, super long arms and legs, and the hands were very long too. And it was very solid black in the core, and but it was almost as if you were to draw somebody, maybe, excuse me, on Photoshop, and then kind of blur them on the edges, and then have smoke coming off of them. Uh, and this is the within 15, 30 seconds of seeing this thing. Like I said, it's in the middle of the road, and at this point, I'm like, I'm terrified. Uh, it feels as if it's telling me, like, not actually telling me that you are in trouble and you're in danger, but that's the feeling I'm getting off of it. I'm not hearing anything in my head. It's just kind of like a terrifying feeling. Like I said, I decide to run towards my house, and my friend lived, um, I would say, a quarter mile from my house down this long road of the neighborhood. My house was right at the end of the road. If you walk straight down the road, and so I'm booking it, like running as fast as I can, and I'm looking back, and this thing is walking like, slowly, but it's keeping pace with me because it's so big. I would say maybe 11, 12 feet tall, at the least, um, just because its head had been above the gutter, even at a like a duck walk, kind of bent at the knees, like pretty significantly. Maybe even 13 feet. It was very, very tall, and it's chasing me. I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, and then I finally get to my house, and I'm looking for the keys, where I used to hide them, uh, and they weren't there. And so I start banging on the door, begging for my mom to let me in. She comes to the door angry at me, 19-year-old, her 19-year-old son's coming to the door at, 3:45, 4 in the morning, banging on the door. And she's asking, what's going on? What's happening? Where have you been? And I tell her, hey, I'm being chased. I'm just like telling her, like, something's chasing me, something's after me. I think, it wants me. And, my mom says, I don't know what you're talking about. Get in the house. And, she slams the door, and she keeps talking to me about it. And I'm like, there's something out there. There's something out there. And then I go to look out the door, because at the top of the door, there's these windows cut out. Um, and my mom can't see through them because she's fairly short, but I'm 6 feet tall, so I can see through them fairly easily. And I see it's in my driveway, but it's starting to kind of, for lack of better terms, like, get vacuumed into the sky. I already see, like, I can only see the torso, and it's just getting like black smoke vacuumed into the sky. Um, and then after that, I think like about a month or so, because this is an extended experience. I should have led with that. Um, about a month or so later, uh, I'm just watching TV in my living room. It's not too late, maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night. And then my two dogs start like barking like crazy, crazy barking at the backyard. And they didn't typically do that. So I'm like, what's going on? And I go to the big glass door, and I move the curtains. And standing right in the middle of my backyard is this thing, and I feel the same panic and the same terror that I felt before. This maybe 10, 15 seconds passes as I'm looking at it, and then I see the entire thing once again get sucked back into the sky. But um, starting from the head, so you could see the head kind of disappear, then the torso, then the legs, and so on. Very, very weird experience. And Sheesh. And then I think like 3.5 months, something like that passes. Um and I'm walking home from a friend's house that lives I lived in this giant neighborhood complex with a bunch of different neighborhoods inside of it. Um and my entrance was to the west, and where my friend lived was all the way on the other side to the east, I believe. And we were just hanging out at their house, having a little cookout. And then again, I leave maybe, I don't know, no later than 9, 10 o'clock at night to walk back home. And then, I'm walking, just listening to music. Then all of a sudden, I get to this corridor of like fir trees that's maybe um, halfway there, maybe a mile from my house. Uh, and then I start to feel kind of weird, like kind of nervous. And, I'm starting to look forward instead of looking down at my phone. Um, and then from the right side of the trees, this thing takes one step, and this is a fairly wide road where you can drive two cars, going opposite directions, and then have cars parked on the side. So it's fairly wide, but it takes one step from where the trees were, which were maybe like 6 feet from where the sidewalk ends to get onto the street. Takes one step, and it's like almost in the middle of the road, and it turns and just is looking at me. And I start to feel the intense terror again. At this time, I'm thinking to myself, "This is it. I'm done. Like, there's nothing I can do." And I'm this time maybe 5, 10 seconds, very quick. It just turns and continues walking into the trees, and I don't see it, go up into the sky or anything. It just walks into the trees, and that's when I say to myself, "This is it. This is your opportunity," and I book it home. And I look behind me. I don't see it again. It's not chasing me, nothing like that. And then I no longer feel the terror as I'm getting to my house. Um, I get into my house. I'm freaked out. I don't sleep at all that night. And maybe 2, 3 days later is the final time I see this thing, but it wasn't the full apparition. It was maybe dinner time, not dinner time, lunchtime. And my mom had just finished cooking, and she called me downstairs from my room. And as I'm exiting my room, I get about halfway through the doorway of my room, and I see this black smoke coming into my room from the right side, maybe 6 to 8 feet away from me, and it comes down right in front of me and forms a solid ball, maybe 4 to 5 inches in diameter, right in front of me. Has the same solid shape with the smoke coming off, and I feel the same exact feeling. But this time, it is very clearly saying, you know, "I've got you. This is it. This is your time." It's like I hear these words, and and then the weirdest part of it all, uh, it's probably in front of me, maybe 5 seconds, and from the right side of my room, I see two like same diameter, mercury looking balls that come one on top and one on the other, or one underneath the black orb. That is, I'm convinced was the same shadow creature because it gave me the same feeling. And all of a sudden, they just kind of like shut down, like close in on the black orb, and it does like a camera flash. And then I'm just, yell, and I let out some profanities, and then I hear my mom say like, "Hey, what, what's that?" And she doesn't like she didn't like me cursing at the time. And then maybe 2, 3 seconds later, I hear her say the same thing because uh, she had seen that. So she comes around the stairs. She said, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "Yeah, this black orb, and there was this flash," and I'm telling her everything. She tells me, "Oh no, I saw 3 mercury-looking orbs, and she said, I told this story before, and I always remember her saying they went through the window, but, I spoke with her the other day, about it, and she told me that they went, down through the floor and one went, up through the ceiling, and they made a big camera flash. Um, and the craziest part about those orbs is the moment that that flash happened was probably the most intense peace I've ever felt in my life, and all the terror went away. Um, like, everything just was, like, okay. I knew that everything was okay, and from that point, I never saw this thing again. Um, but yeah, it was definitely, one of the more visceral experiences that I've had in my life.
Do you have any idea what any of this could have been? I know it's like it's a question that's not gonna have like a definitive answer, but like, do
Yeah.
you feel this was like a shadow spirit thing, or do you think it was something kind of trying to be physical, or what do you think it was?
So, in talking to other people about my experience and my mom, my dad and, uh, other friends, when I would speak to, the 2 friends that were there during the first experience, um, everybody had their own ideas, but a lot of times I'll hear that that it was a demon, just, purely because of the last event that happened where, a lot of people tell me those were like angels or guardian angels, stuff like that that came in to save me. So that's kind of where I kind of lay with it. But every once in a while, I think like, oh, maybe it wasn't, just because I'm not like super highly spiritual person. Um, I will tell you, I've had other experiences with other things before and after this, but I've never been the kind of guy that's like super, religious and stuff like that. But um, when I think about it, when I talk to other people and they bring it up, it just, kinda like shadow like a demon kinda stands out the most just because of, like, the abject horror and terror that I felt, the absolute peace I felt when the other, 2, like, silver, mercury-looking orbs came in and quote, unquote, "saved me."
Hmm. I was gonna say it sounds kind of demonic,
Yeah.
but the question for me is always, what is an actual demon? Because lately everyone considers all sorts of things demons. And I try not to go that route with everything being a demon. I know that's kind of like the trendy thing. So,
Yeah.
but this sounds like you had two friends that seen it with you. So it wasn't just you that only saw it, and then your mom even seen it. So there's four different people
Yeah.
that have witnessed this. Did you ever just like, did you see any like features to it, anything definitive, or is it just more just the shape?
No, it was just a shape, no eyes, no facial features. It had, like, a human-shaped head, but it was blacker than black. Like, so black you couldn't, determine any kind of features other than, just the shape of the it had ears, like a shape of the head.
Mm-hmm.
Human-shaped head, just really gangly, like, strange looking thing.
For as tall as you've said it was, I don't know of anyone else I've talked to that's reported seeing anything that tall, as far as like a shadow type person. So that's a new one for me, is the height on it. That's pretty big.
Yeah, usually from what I see from shadow people reports, they're typically, like at least from what I listen to on your podcast and other shows, it's typically, like, fairly, typical sized people.
Yeah, they're usually human sized. I've never
Yeah.
heard one being basically double the size of a person before, so that's new. But
Yeah, it was strange.
it does remind me of a couple of other things I've had a couple of other guests talked about, but what they saw was solid. They were gray. They weren't shadow people, but they were really tall, slender humanoid shapes. But they thought it looked like more like an alien. But again, there was no features on them either. So
Yeah.
with this, did it look smoky at all, or just shadowy?
Yeah, it was very, like I said, like, it had, like, smoke billowing off of
Mm-hmm.
it, like, it looked kind of like a person, but blurry on the edges, and then where it where the blur kind of ended, it was coming off and billowing off like a black
Almost like
smoke.
a steamy
It was a
smoke.
lighter color than the full like the actual body, but yeah, it was coming off kind of like like steam or like not like when you see smoke coming from a barbecue, but kind of like when you see that slow like smoke, like kind of like what you said. Like steam is definitely seems like the right term.
You know how you see off in the distance when you're driving, almost looks like a little bit of a mirage on the road, almost
Yeah.
reflect, kind of like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like when you see the road kind of start bending and stuff, that definitely is kind of like an accurate representation. Um,
That's
I would say.
that's actually interesting because I've heard other people talk about these things, and they referred to those things as something almost like it was cloaking. And they use that as a description, like when you're seeing something off in the asphalt, like the heat from the
Yeah.
asphalt rising, the steam up from the asphalt, it makes it almost look like things are starting to bend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is, the fact you've seen it 3 times and you've had people that also seen it, that's also different from most times because usually when people experience these things, they only have their own account to go off of it. And the fact that you had 2 friends and your mom had also seen everything, it's kind of interesting in the sense that that never usually happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel kind of fortunate. Especially during the first two experiences. Well, the first one was the only one that was fully shared with the full apparition. Um, but I felt fortunate because I at least I knew I wasn't like hallucinating. So I was like, okay, this isn't something that I just made up in my mind because it's 3 in the morning. These other, my other friends saw this thing, same thing. And I spoke to them since about it. So I know I wasn't crazy. So I feel, even though the experience was terrifying, I do feel fortunate that it wasn't just me because then I probably would have thought that I was just like losing my mind.
Having someone there to verify it does help. At
Yeah.
least I would think it would, just because you have someone else that's seen it, so you know yourself. You didn't just imagine it.
Yeah.
What it,
100%.
when you talk with them about it, I know you said the one had passed away, but what did they think it was?
The my friend T that passed away, he was leaning more towards like the whole demon type of aspect of it because he told me he also felt that feeling of just like this is not good. Um, my other friend D, he is one of those that if you bring it up, like he'll say, "Yeah, I do remember," but that's as far as I'm willing to go. He won't talk about it.
Some people are like that. Something happens
Yeah.
and they just don't ever want to bring it up again, or they just want to deny it and say it never happened.
Yep. Yeah. I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Right. Now I understand that. I've dealt with that myself. But with your mom, what did she think it like? Because she saw the orbs. She didn't. Did she
Yeah.
just? Did she see the actual figure or just the orb parts?
No, she only saw the orbs leaving the house from our dining room area. She never actually saw the full apparition. Just the orbs, and like I said, I saw two Mercury and one shadow black smoky orb, and she saw three Mercury orbs. But we both experienced like the bright flash. Um, and this was kind of my mom's I would say awakening because before, like, if I would tell her about experiences, she was kind of very skeptical and like, oh, you're just imagining stuff. But ever since, um, she's been open to any time I have any kind of experience. But yeah, she never saw anything, and then she said that she felt a peace when the light flashed, but she didn't say it was like very intense. Um, so I'm thinking maybe I was just experiencing so much terror that the peace kind of canceled it out and made me feel um, just at peace, and the juxtaposition of the two feelings kind of made me feel it more.
This might come off as a strange question, but it's not meant to be this way. But why do you think you saw it more than once? Because your other friends had seen it, but that was the only time they seen it. How come you saw it multiple times?
So I think that the only reason I saw it more than once, and I could be wrong, um, I believe that it was looking for me. Uh, I don't understand why the one time it looked at me and then just kept walking, as opposed to chasing me like it did the first time, and then standing in the backyard as well. But I think that it was something that was there for me.
Is there something that you'd have done that could have made it want you? Well, the way I'm going with this is because
Yeah.
usually I find out when I talk to people that I say FO a lot around here now.
Yeah.
Screw around with a Ouija board. They were trying something out and I think stuff like that does invite things in. Is that something you'd messed around with beforehand or anything?
Uh, I had not done that prior to. I didn't do anything like that before. I had a previous experience with something when I was visiting family in Puerto Rico one time. Um, but other than that, I didn't really look into any like occult stuff. The closest I got was maybe I was in high school, so maybe 2 3 years before that. We drove to some like abandoned houses around the greater Indianapolis area, kind of like where you start getting out of Indianapolis to the north, past Carmel and stuff. Um, and kind of looking and like, oh hey, this house is supposed to be haunted, and we kind of looked around, and got a little scared. But I've never done any kind of Ouija board or any kind of
Yeah.
anything that I think would invite something.
I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I don't know anything that I'm talking about, but from what I've gathered from people and listening to other people, a lot of it they claim you have to invite these things. And I don't know how people
Hello?
go about inviting them, but that's the one thing that I've always was told is like demonic forces or anything dark like that. It's something that you usually have to invite yourself. And sometimes people do it unintentionally. They don't even know they're doing it. It's just something that happens. That's a scary thought. If you unintentionally invite something that can
Yeah.
want to just pop in and steal your soul or whatever it was it wants to do with you.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard of something called like the hitchhiker effect, where something just
Mm-hmm.
kind of decides to hop on, and then try to get you to. And I think it never came into my house up until the last time, and maybe at some point, um, maybe in my head I was like, oh, just end this already, kind of like I didn't want to experience it anymore, and then it maybe took that as an invitation to come in, because like I said, it didn't come in until that last time. So I really don't know. It's definitely the most impactful um, experience that I would say, or the most visceral one I've had.
Ever since this happened, has there been anything else that you've noticed since then? Not so much with that, but just little things that seem strange.
Not with relation to the kind of uh to this kind of thing. I will say that I've had other visitors that have come to my house, and I've lived in multiple countries since, and had these visitors 3 other times, um, and you know, never in Indianapolis again, but I lived in South Korea for a bit, in Florida, and I've had them come 3 different times since then, and I have seen lights in the sky and orbs, but nothing to the same effect of this shadow thing.
I always kind of go back to anymore. And this is newer for me because I used to be
Yeah.
against the idea of it, but I feel like once you have those experiences, you start having more. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned your mom having an awakening. That's kind of what it feels like for me when you hear about people that experience something, because then you also find out they've experienced this. They've seen little lights. They've seen other things. They've experienced more paranormal stuff. It's like that one thing opens something up in your mind and it enables you to see it. But now I've come to the mindset of maybe the reason you experience things more, people experience these things more, is because your mind's open to it. But because you notice them, now they notice you. So
I
maybe
think
that draws them in.
that's a valid statement. Just because ever since I've had these experiences, I kind of have definitely a lot more open. Sometimes I'll hear stuff on podcast or on your podcast as well, where I'm like, oh, that sounds like a little bit fishy, but at the same time, I'm like, well, from what I've experienced, it could sound the same way to somebody else. So I kind of see things differently in that way, where sometimes I might question it because I still have kind of a skeptic's
Right.
viewpoint. I wanna. I'm not the guy that's like, oh, I saw this. Oh, that was aliens. That was Bigfoot, or that was this. I'm like, what could it have been other than
Hmm.
first? That way, I can kind of like look at it in a more scientific lens.
That's how
Um,
I try to approach
yeah,
everything too. I don't try and prove
yeah,
or disprove people's claims, but a lot of the time I'm trying to think in my head of what could it have been. Just because for me,
exactly.
that you have to have some sort of a base. You have to have some sort of grounding to it. Because if you start believing every single thing that gets tossed out there, then you go so farther down that rabbit hole that it's hard to get out of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, is there anything else you would like to discuss?
Um, Not really. I'd love to come on maybe another time to kind of speak about my other experiences, but I really wanted to get this one kind of out there a little more just to see if because I've heard like my other kinds of experiences are more towards the extraterrestrial and cryptid side, and I've heard hundreds and hundreds of stories. And I've heard tons of shadow stories, but never one like my own. And I just kind of wanted to get this out there to see if maybe there's somebody else out there who's had this experience or this kind of experience and kind of share it, or maybe somehow I can connect with somebody and kind of talk about it.
Yeah. If you want someone to reach out to you, if they've experienced this, how would you want them to contact you?
I via email. You have my email, so you can just kind of share that. If they if they email you and say, hey, I listened to this story and I had a similar experience, you can feel free to share my email with them, and then
Okay.
I'll connect with them that way.
Okay. For anyone listening, if you've had any sort of experiences similar to what Sergio went through, reach out to me and I'll get you in contact with him.
Awesome, thank you.
If you would like to share your other experiences, you can now, unless you'd rather do that on a separate one.
Um, it's kind of lengthy.
Okay.
So I don't want to take too much time. But I definitely do want to talk about them at some point.
Yeah, definitely we'll get back in touch then and we can get it figured out and get something scheduled. But that's definitely what you experienced with the shadow thing is unique to me. I haven't heard anything from anyone similar to that, especially seeing it 3 times and other people seeing it. That is a lot different than what I normally hear.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, though, I was thinking that now with the shadow, the first thing you said was walking across the road. I'm trying to remember, where was the first one at when you guys seen it with your friends?
So when we were able to hear me,
Yeah, I can hear you. You kind of cut out, but you're back now.
yeah, for some reason my screen just went like crazy, and then it rejoined the call. But um, like I was saying, when we first saw it, it was across the street from the house we were sitting at, holding on to the gutter uh of the house directly across before walking. into the middle of the road there.
Do you know whose house that was?
Yes, that was my other friend. His name is Jay. I'll call him Jay. He didn't experience it. I asked him if anything woke him up. Uh, but yeah, it was one of our other friends.
Okay. I was say if it was at his property on his house, I wonder if it had anything to do over there, and because you guys seen it start to follow you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. I mean, that could be the case. Maybe it was just looking for somebody to see it. I don't know.
I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I knew you said you'd seen it come out and start to follow you guys. And it's like, where was it at originally? Because I thought you said it was by a gutter, so it had to been around someone's house. I was like, I wonder whose house it was, because maybe they're the reason it was there. But I don't know. Well, again, I look forward to talking with you here sometime soon in the future. So if anyone out there listening, again, make sure to reach out to me, and I will put you in contact with Sergio if you've had any sort of experience like this, because again, he's looking for answers. He's kind of in the same boat that I am. I'm always looking for answers too. So for anyone out there listening, just know you appreciate it. And thanks to Sergio.
Thank you.
Yep, you have a good night. If you'd like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Make sure to follow me around on all the social medias. And just remember, truth comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the price?
I heard a story late last night about something lurking along the wood line. Huge footprints, strange lights in the sky. They claim it's nothing, but I know they lie. It's easier to laugh in my face, but something about this makes me say, what if it's real? What if they knew? What if the answers are coming from you? Spinning stories, wasting my time, hearing voices, is it all in their minds? They can call me crazy, but I just want some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They see a dog man walking, or maybe a mothman flies above the buried giants, hidden beneath the lies. They say it's just stories, it's all make-believe. Fairy tales for the things we can't perceive. They want to keep us blinded, they want to break our will. But I'm not buying it, I'm not swallowing another pill. Force-fed poison, the lies we're made to believe. What if the truth could set us free? Alien signals traveling through time, secret space programs erasing their minds. They call them crazy, but I just need some proof. What if it's true? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. They laugh, they lie, we all could die, but the signs are there if you open your eyes. Aliens, cryptids, demons, ghosts, the Nephilim too. What if it's me? Or what if it's real? What if it's real? What if it's true? What if the world's not what we knew? Tinfoil tales pulling me in, a story that starts where the logic ends. What if it's real? What if it's true? The answers are waiting, they're waiting for you. It's all in our heads, it's all in our minds. These voices can't be silenced, the truth must rise. Tinfoil tales, it's pulling me through. What if it's real? What if it's true?